What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Talks with Jacob, where I interview doers, achievers, and go-getters and how they create their own luck and became successful. And today we are here with Scott Raz. Scott is a habit development coach who helps busy professionals unlock 5 hours per week in their busy calendar. He provides one-on-one coaching packages for professionals seeking to develop their self-management skills. He focuses on time, energy, and mind management to take back control of your life and work so that you can spend it on what's meaningful to you. So if you're a busy professional, if you're a busy entrepreneur, this episode might be very insightful for you. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Jacob, thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
So Scott, why did you choose this challenge to help professionals with? When did it all start?
It's an interesting question. So when did it all start? So for me, I really do believe that like everything we do kind of leads us somewhere. And I think that a lot of what I've done in my life has kind of led me into coaching. Growing up with an entrepreneur family, like my dad always involved me in like, I remember like being 12 years old, like sitting at the dinner table and he's asking me questions about the business. I'm like, I don't know how to answer you. Like, I'm 12 years old. What are you doing asking me?
What was your dad doing, or what is your dad doing?
So he's owned multiple businesses,
Okay.
some import, export, some different things
Right.
along those lines.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of growing up in, our vacations would also be going to trade shows where we'd travel, go to a trade show, and then spend some extra time afterwards. So I was always involved with people, always, presenting or selling from that point of view. So I got
Right.
really comfortable at talking to people from that point, just to get started from there. And then in terms of coaching, that actually started more about like 4 years ago, where I was working for an overseas firm, which allowed me to travel and work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, coming out of university, that was like, oh my God, this is like my dream job. And I quickly realized how easy it was to procrastinate or take a 2-hour lunch. And I faced this decision where I was kind of like a couple of weeks in, I was either like, okay, well, I can coast by, and then at some point they're going to figure out, okay, this isn't going to work out. Or I have some changes to make. And so the latter didn't really sit too well with me. So I decided to see what kind of changes I could make in my own personal life. And then from there, throughout the years, I was coaching people without really even knowing I was coaching them. And
So who were the people you started coaching? Your just friends or co-workers?
yeah, as it usually starts out, right? It was more friends and family, and people saw changes in my life. They're like, "Oh, well, what are you doing here? Like, what's going on there?" And I tell them a little bit about it and what I was reading, what I was experimenting with, and at the
What
time,
changes did they notice on you?
so some of the big changes for me, at least especially at the beginning, was actually waking up early. So I was always somebody like throughout university, throughout most of my my younger life, always going to bed really late and then sleeping in, not getting enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And part of like being on my own, I wrote out this list of things I wanted to change.
Okay.
Like a lot of people do. I wanted to eat healthy and wake up early, go to the gym, work more productively. And I quickly failed at all that because I took everything on at once.
All right. So you were aware that you want to make some drastic changes in your life, but you just decided on like that you will do all these 10 things, but then you
Exactly.
got overwhelmed, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I see that more and more. What happens is that, rather than saying, okay, well, what's one step I can take to start creating that ideal that I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, no, I'm here. I want to be here. How can I make that jump in one step? And, I learned the hard way that, well, it's not sustainable. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
you can do it. Maybe some people do, and then they make it out. But for most people, it's not sustainable. So for me, it was understanding, well, what are the small steps you can start taking to actually implement those changes over time?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, waking up early, it took me about 4 months to make waking up early a habit, but it showed me the power of behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
That the more that you can actually change the way you do things, if you work at it consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so if people have a list of, let's say, 5 things they want to change, eat more healthy, waking up early, create to-do list, journaling, and going to the gym, right? How do I choose like the first thing out of these all things I want to change? How do I choose the first thing I should start with, so I don't get overwhelmed like you did?
Mhm. So I would maybe take a step back and ask which of those are most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the second question is which of those might have an impact on other things on that list.
Okay.
And for me, when I thought about waking up early, I was like, well, it'll give me that much more time to do all these other things that I wanted to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the thought process behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's maybe different for everybody.
Got it. What do you think like about people who are identifying themselves as a night owls, that they go sleep to 2 a.m. and 2 a.m. and then
Mm-hmm.
wake up at 10 a.m. and they're saying that it works for them like amazingly well? And I was one of them, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm waking up around 5 and it's completely different. But do you think that people can actually work on this, like that, in this regime?
So it's a really good question, and it's timely that you asked that. So I'm partway through the book, Why We Sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and I've read a little bit about this in the past as well, and it's kind of talking about the circadian rhythm and saying that we each have like a circadian rhythm that our bodies kind of follow. However, I also read some other research which has talked about that, yeah, there are such thing as night owls who do their best work at night. And unfortunately, the way that society is kind of set up, like a 9 to 5 job, it kind of hinders them
Mm-hmm.
because maybe they're not following their own energy levels. So it's difficult for them to now adjust. And yeah, they're more tired because they're forced into a system that doesn't accommodate maybe what their genetics or their I won't quote genetics there specifically, but you know what I mean. Like that
Yes.
doesn't accommodate for them.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned sleep cycles. Do you know a little bit more about that? Because I might have a question, or should we skip that?
Ask the question, and I'll be as
Well,
honest as possible about what I know or information I've read, and
so
otherwise we'll pass on.
so I go to sleep around 10:30 p.m.
Okay.
10:30 p.m. and I'm waking up at 5:30,
Mm-hmm.
and every day 5:30 alarm wakes me up from a dream. Right? So I have a dream, a really vivid dream, and alarm wakes me up, and I'm thinking like, if I have a dream, is it that I'm really in deep sleep and I shouldn't be waking up for like another half an hour, let's say? Or is it a good time to wake up when I recognize this pattern? So it's actually cool to wake up through the dream.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to try to paraphrase the book that I'm currently reading, which again, if
Okay.
anybody else wants to learn more about it and have maybe some scientific backing towards it, it's Why We Sleep. And when he's talking about sleep is that we actually fluctuate between two cycles of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
One is rapid eye movement, which is just REM, and then one is non-rapid eye movement. And what happens is that we fluctuate between these two types of sleep. And at the beginning of the night, it's predominantly non-REM sleep, which is more of a deep sleep. And then as we get into the morning hours and we progress, now the weight changes. Now it becomes more REM sleep and less non-REM sleep. But it does go in a cycle, up and
Mm-hmm.
down. So the idea there, when you're waking up from a vivid dream, that means you're in a REM sleep cycle,
Okay.
which it's better to be waking up, from my understanding so far, in a REM sleep cycle than it would be from a non-REM sleep cycle where you're actually in very deep sleep and you shouldn't really be waking up at that time.
Hmm. Interesting. I thought that it's the opposite way, that REM sleep is deep sleep.
And again, I haven't read the whole book yet,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
but this is
So
my
Why We
understanding
Sleep
so
is the book.
far. That the way it works is that we have wakefulness, and then as we go down, it's REM sleep, and then it's non-REM sleep, which has 4 stages,
Mm-hmm.
and then we come back up into REM sleep, and then non-REM sleep, and we kind of keep going up and down
Yes.
until we wake up again.
Uh-huh. Interesting. All right. So Scott, tell me about what do you do? So you work with entrepreneurs, you work with busy professionals who are saying that they're busy, they don't have time, and you actually will help them to find that they have time. So how do you do it?
So yeah, so the way that I look at it is, especially with entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
right? We wear so many hats at once. You're doing so many different things. It's kind of taking a step back and deciding, well, where's my time best spent now? And part of what I see isn't just working on what's urgent, because I think that's usually what gets addressed first, but it's carving out time for what's important. So it's kind of like working on the business versus in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, working from one thing to the next. But it's taking that step back that's a little more difficult. I think that's the first thing as a coach. What I do for my clients is really taking that step back and
Right.
saying, well, what does a clear vision look like? Just because this is the way that we're doing things, is this the best way to be doing things?
What if they don't have a vision, like that they are just doing things, right? Multiple things at the same time. You help them to
So maybe it
identify it.
requires a little more work around that.
Okay. Okay.
So for me, it's understanding um, what are the outcomes that you're looking to
Mm-hmm.
create, and are the action steps that you're currently taking going to help you create those outcomes?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then maybe the actions we need to be taking need to be shifted.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first step, taking a step back, identifying the things that they are currently doing,
Mm-hmm.
and deciding whether they should be continuing on all of them, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, it's around self-awareness, right? So you can't change what you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first step for anything is just becoming more self-aware, understanding where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there it'll allow you to move forward.
So what is moving forward? So where do you take your clients next after this step?
So I like to split things up between two categories.
Mm-hmm.
One is action tasks, and the other is motion tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea here is that action tasks are things that will produce an actual outcome.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you'll get a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm.
There's a success or a failure. While motion tasks don't have a clear ending,
Okay.
where it's something that, for example, it could be creating a plan, doing research, things along those lines, which are important. However, I feel a lot of times we spend too much time in the planning and not
Mm-hmm.
enough time in actually implementing the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea there is, well, what if we shifted our focus when we spent more time actually implementing these plans to find out what works and what doesn't, rather than spending all that time just in the planning phase?
So action and motion tasks. Can you give me more examples of motion tasks?
Yeah, for sure. So again, I think it depends what you're doing, what your business is. At the end of the day, I really see motion tasks as not having a clear ending or a clear outcome.
So it can be, for example, I don't know, working out.
So I guess, yeah, if we're taking it more of a personal level, the way that I look at it is usually more towards a business side of
Okay.
things. Um, that's a good question. I've never thought about working out as whether that's like an action task or a motion task.
I mean,
I
you
think,
can quantify it. Like if you
oh
if you
yeah,
look at your six pack, if it's like
yeah.
six, it's clearly quantified.
So I would consider it weekly maintenance, right?
Right.
From that point of view.
Uh-huh.
Um, but
So yeah,
so what I usually see is just we tend to avoid action tasks because of a fear of rejection, a fear of failure, a fear of not being ready. Right? There's
mm-hmm.
usually some kind of obstacle in the way, and so it's easier to get caught up in kind of like the planning phase or in the research phase, or I even consider networking is a motion task. But actually requesting a meeting, now that's action,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'll actually get something from that.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually got in touch with you through research. I was
Yeah,
asking you like, what is your number one challenge, right?
yeah.
Um,
But you didn't just connect, right? You
yeah.
connected, then actually reached out and asked me a few questions. You engaged,
Uh-huh.
and that led to something more.
Mm-hmm.
If you just connected and just connected with 1,000 people, at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything. But
Mm-hmm.
if you connect with just 10 and actually reach out and request something from them, now that can actually get you somewhere.
Mm-hmm. We were also talking before on our call
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks back about your quite unique strategy of how you're generating clients, how you're getting clients,
Mm-hmm.
because you're doing it through workshops, correct?
Yeah, so I have a few different things that have worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
One of those is, like you had mentioned, doing workshops. So offering, whether it be lunch and learns, doing workshops. I've partnered with an association or accelerator program here for entrepreneurs, and I offer workshops there maybe every 6 weeks or so. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
great way to connect with other entrepreneurs. And now I'm actually branching out that side of the business and now working more with organizations, partnering with other people here that offer workshops and training who might be interested in,
Mm,
how do, maybe our clients could use maybe some of the information I provide around self-management skills.
I
So
see.
that's another part of the business that I'm looking to grow and build up.
So basically, you're reaching out to people who are doing sort of similar things, but they're not competing you. You're not competing to them, and you're offering them whether they would like to quote unquote white label your services.
Yeah, exactly. So working like as a subcontractor,
Yes.
where I'm leveraging my core competencies, which is, the information that I'm providing, the coaching that I do, the
Mm-hmm.
workshops that I do, and they're leveraging what they already have, which is their client base, which is their outreach, their reputation. So I see that as being good partnerships where, yeah, you know what, in terms of finances, you might be losing out on something. But again, you're leveraging what you do best. And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of what I help my clients do is focus on, well, what are your core competencies and how can we so I have an acronym called MADE, which is minimize, automate, delegate, or eliminate.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we use one of those four things for all those other tasks that don't fit in your wheelhouse? And
Mm-hmm.
what would it look like if you focus more time on those few core competencies to help grow your business?
Interesting. So, when you start working with someone, with some entrepreneur who hires you as a coach, as one-to-one coach, what is their like very like situation that where they start working with you? They're wearing multiple hats, right? They don't know what they should be doing first, right? But what is actually the trigger why they decide that they would like to start working with you?
So it's interesting you asked that, Jacob, because it's a question that I've been asking myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at across my clients, it's like, okay, well, what's the commonality? I thought, okay, maybe you know what, it's a specific industry, it's a
Okay.
specific offering that they do. So far, what I've identified is that mostly it's entrepreneurs who offer some type of service.
Mm.
They're looking to grow their business, and I think the more important thing is that they're willing to invest in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like looking through all the clients that I have, I noticed that one commonality is that they know they can be better, and they're willing to invest in themselves. Because it's easy to
Right.
talk. It's easy to talk about the changes you want to make,
Mm-hmm.
but actually making those changes or investing in somebody that would help you implement those things,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bit of a gap between that.
Now I can understand why these workshops are best place to meet people who might be interested in your services because people need to be physically there, and I'm not sure if they're paid or free these workshops, but they need to invest their time, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
need to go there and they need to commit to something, so it sort of pre-qualify them. They might be a good client.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also noticed a cool thing that you start posting quite a lot on LinkedIn, and
Mm-hmm.
so tell me about that. Like, what is your end goal when it comes to LinkedIn?
So as far as my LinkedIn strategy, I've been on LinkedIn like most people for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Was very inactive, or maybe posted a few things here and there, but
Okay.
never really committed fully from that point of view. And so I decided last year what I planned on doing was I spent a lot of time networking, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
time going to different events, meeting different people, specifically in my community. And my thought process behind that was that if I can now build up a base here in my community, and then also leverage LinkedIn, where now I'm engaging more on LinkedIn. Now when I go to meetings, people are like, "Oh yeah, I saw you on LinkedIn. You're doing a lot on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn." And the way that I look at it is, okay, well now I'm seeing them in person, and I'm also showing up in their feed now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of helps keep me top of mind. So it's been the combination of both that in person as well as that online connection,
Mm-hmm.
which I think from there, once I build up a strong base on LinkedIn and even locally, then I decide, okay, well, how else now can I grow more specifically online?
Right. Yeah, because I often hear like these LinkedIn experts that
Mhm.
you should be posting a lot on LinkedIn, and it actually attracts like inbound leads, inbound customers. So, is it happening for you that people are reaching out to you for specific advice or something based on your
So
content?
yeah, so I just implemented the more like the LinkedIn strategy content as of the beginning of January. So we're about the middle of February now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of engagement on my posts,
Mm-hmm.
and also the fact that when I do go out to things, people kind of recognize me, or they say, "Oh yeah, well I see you on LinkedIn," and I'm able to leverage that right now. Um, I can't say in this short period of time that that is what has generated me a lot of clients. I think I'm using it more as a form of credibility
Okay.
and a way of people to get to know you. I mean, I think coaching is very trust based. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I mean, one of the main things that you want to look for in a coach is fit, right? Somebody could be a master and have all the expertise and everything you're looking for. But if at the end of the day, there's not a good fit, it's never going to, I personally don't think it's going to work out for the best.
Fit, you mean like personality fit that you like Scott as a person?
Yeah, well, there's some type of connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you feel like you can trust this person, that
Mm-hmm.
you hear what they're saying, and you feel like you develop that kind of relationship with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do see coaching as a partnership. At the end of the day, it's not something that like, okay, well, we have this 1 hour call, we meet X amount of times a month, and I don't want to hear from you in between. It's like I want to like we've set these goals for ourselves, and I see it as a partnership. Well, how can we achieve it? What support do you need from me to
Mm-hmm.
help you get there?
Mm-hmm. But I think you have some sort of process, right? So how long does it take to take your client to the goal, which is more
Mhm.
time for meaningful things?
So I think I don't want to use an answer that's like a cop out, but the truth is it depends.
Okay.
It depends what you're looking to achieve. It depends where you're at. Depends the barriers you have in front of you. Depends if you're a solopreneur or if you have a team that you actually can delegate to and you can actually offload your plate
Mm-hmm.
some of these tasks. At the end of the day, I feel that those finding 5 hours in the week isn't actually that hard. We tend to spend a lot of time on busy work, and the idea here is if you apply 100% of your focus on something for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, you'd be working that much more effectively than just jumping from one thing to the next to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is, well, how can you create some of those focus periods to actually make better use of your time? So at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, that's all we have, right? I mean, I have three specific focuses that I look at. It's
Mm-hmm.
time, energy, and mind. And when I say mind, it's mostly around focus.
Okay.
So once you're able to align those three things, then you're able to be that much more productive.
Hmm. You said we spend a lot of time on busy work. What is busy work?
So I would go back to what we talked about, action and motion tasks.
Ah, right. Okay.
So I'd say a lot of motion tasks are probably around busy work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Emails at the end of the day usually are responding to other people's demands of your time,
Mm-hmm.
when you should actually be prioritizing where you want to spend your energy and focus versus letting somebody else demand that time or energy from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
think
see.
emails is definitely the one that everybody kind of gets goes down the black hole with, so to speak.
So would you recommend to like what do you recommend when it comes to emails, right? Because for example, I deal with it like I mean I have my email client open like in my like in the bottom of my screen, and sometimes I just hear that notification and my
Yeah.
focus is a little bit messed after that. So would you create like a block of time during the day when I just solve emails?
So that would definitely be ideal. And
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of resistance with email because people are so used to always having it open, always having it there and responding right away. And there's that fear of, well, if I don't respond right away, I'll lose a client, or there might be a fire I need to put out, or but those those amount of times that it's actually that urgent, the cost of always having your email open is far greater than missing those 1 or 2 times that it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually going to challenge you now, Jacob.
Sure, let's do it.
So what would it take for you to close your email application at different times throughout the day so you can actually focus on what you're doing?
Can you elaborate the question a little bit, please?
Yeah. Well, let's do right now as an example. I'm assuming that you don't have your email application open, or you
No,
at least
it's
have it on
closed.
Do Not Disturb, right?
It's closed, yes.
So what would it look like if throughout the week you had periods of time that you scheduled meetings with yourself, as if it was a podcast with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
that you can now have focused work, that you work on just your important tasks during that time?
I'm actually applying this something similar in the morning. So I usually start working around 6:45, 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a block of time for 2 hours. Then I have like clear tasks, what I need to do, and I focus on them. But sometimes it's difficult, right? Sometimes I have my phone next to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that one notification, it's and the whole focus can be gone, and it can take like 20 minutes to get the focus again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way I actually do it right now is that I just go to airplane mode.
Yeah.
And I put my phone out of sight, like behind me, that I cannot even see it. Right. But then there's a email, there's a Facebook. So I mean, yes, there is a resistance, as you were saying, and
Mm-hmm.
I quite struggle with that. Like
Okay.
quite struggle to have the deep work time only for myself. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you recommend me to actually have these 2 hours only for
Mm-hmm.
myself? Like what would you do?
So I have 2 things there. So one is you want to create more friction around the things that you're looking to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already doing that with the phone, where you're
Mm-hmm.
putting it in airplane mode, you're putting it behind you, you can't see it, it's out of the way, maybe it's in a desk drawer.
Yes.
I know some people always come back, well, I can't do that with my phone. You know, I have kids in school, I need to be accessible. And I always say most of the time you can put it on Do Not Disturb, and you can actually set specific phone numbers to come through even though it's on Do Not Disturb.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're not receiving notifications, but if there is an emergency, you'll still be accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's increasing that friction.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as email, as far as Facebook and everything else goes, I'll ask you, what are some ways you might be able to increase friction in actually, going on to Facebook?
I installed newsfeed eradicator, which means that it will completely erase your newsfeed, and
Okay.
there's just one quote. But the thing is that I spend most of the time in groups on Facebook, and it doesn't delete
So it
groups.
doesn't work.
So I'm messed up. But I mean, there are some tools, right, that you can use that will block.
So never mind the apps and everything else, because I agree with you. There's a lot of those things. But sometimes I'll get like, how many hours are you going to spend now researching the perfect app to help you not go on Facebook?
Right. Yeah.
But what if you just signed out?
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to actually log in to go back in? I've heard somebody else who changes their password.
Then I need to delete the remembered password too, because
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
another
So
one.
that's another one. Delete remember password. What if we take your email, not email browser, but like the web browser you use, and we take it off your dock, so it's not easily accessible. It's hidden away in a folder. Now you have to go a couple steps before actually reaching that, and then go a couple more steps to actually log in.
Right. Yeah, that's smart, because sometimes it's even like almost a habit, right? That you will click it and you're not even thinking about it, or you will just write it F. You will just write it F into browser and press enter, because Google
have to write the
allows
full
you to
thing,
just
just
write
F.
F and press enter, and you end up on Facebook for some reason, and then again your focus is gone.
Yeah.
So we are fighting these corporations with our mindset tricks.
No, it's true. And so the second thing I want to bring up there, so one was increase the friction. The second is, why is that 2 hours in the morning important to you?
Because I found out that in these 2 hours, I'm most productive and creative.
Yeah. Okay.
Compared to, I don't know, 4 p.m. Because in 4 p.m. I have this sort of low or something that I'm not like super pumped up. And in the evening, well, I want to sleep, and 10 p.m. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you gain by being more productive and creative in the morning? Like, what do you get from that?
Uh, it will get me closer to the results that matter to me, right? I do only the actions in the morning in these 2 hours
Mhm.
that are like necessary for me to taking in order to achieve what I want to achieve.
Okay. And now we can keep going further. We
Right.
won't just because of
Uh-huh.
time, but now
Uh-huh.
the idea as well. Why is it important to achieve those things? And by achieving those things, what will that actually get you? And now
Mm,
we have two things. We built up this wall that makes it more difficult to engage in something, and we also built up this burning desire that, you know what, this 2 hours in the morning is really important to me because it helps me do all these other things, and helps me fulfill those goals that I've set for myself.
so in the end, that there could be something like, all right, so if you open Facebook or email right now, you're giving up on something which is way more meaningful, right? And it might maybe lower the resistance a little, right?
Yeah, every time we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else.
Hmm. That's a good, yeah. Okay. So if you allow these entrepreneurs to unlock their more time, to find more time,
Mhm.
how do they usually spend it? Is it like by working on more meaningful things, or do they just relax? Or what do you see usually that how they spend the time? You let them create.
So most entrepreneurs will be like, "Yeah, I got an extra 5 hours to work in my business," right? Which I understand from that point of view, but I think it takes a bit of a mindset shift. It
Hmm.
was actually something I've been going through with a client for a month and a half now, and I actually just heard it from the other day, like this shift in mindset where for him it was work throughout the day. Like I get tired, whatever it is, I'll eat lunch at my desk. I power through.
Okay.
And I was telling him, no, you want to take lunch away from your desk so you can disconnect. I was really talking to him about the power of disconnecting, being unattached from your work, and that
Hmm.
by disconnecting, when you come back, you're that much more refreshed.
Hmm.
And that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is actually take a break.
Hmm.
And I always faced resistance around that, where it's like, well, no, I have to work more. I have so much going on. I feel the pressure, and I get it, right? You're feeling pressure from everything. How are you supposed to be like, okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes to go and take a walk, right? Like, are you crazy?
Or power nap.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the idea is he came back to me. He was kind of like, you know what? I understand what you mean now. Like, I'm accomplishing more, even though I'm spending less time, let's say, in
Hmm.
front of the computer.
It needs to be intentional relax, intentional break, or when I had interview with Jordan Gross, he was saying intentional
Mm,
play. So for example, I
yeah.
don't know, play guitar or something, because you
Yeah.
actually know that this moment will make you more productive, right? And
Yeah.
you not taking a break is actually doing yourself a disservice,
Hmm.
and people
So
you're
we're
serving maybe, right?
no, I agree. And going back to the Jordan Gross example, it's what are the things that fill you with energy? And if
Hmm.
you're starting to feel depleted, it's not a waste of time now going to play the guitar for 20 minutes. If you come back much more refreshed and focused than you would have been working through that extra 20 minutes,
Hmm.
right? But there does take a bit of a mindset shift around that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And from what I've seen, it is just at first maybe so in habit development we call like extrinsic or intrinsic rewards.
Hmm.
So an extrinsic reward is an external reward. So maybe you can reward yourself for taking that break at first with like an external, I don't know, it could be like a piece of chocolate, for example. And then over time, as you start to feel the intrinsic benefits, then you won't need the external benefit anymore because you'll feel that, oh man, when I take that break, I come back feeling more energized. I'm able to
Hmm.
work that much better.
So based on that, I would like to hear your 2 cents on Gary Vaynerchuk and his hustle and grind mentality.
um, Whatever works for you. I think everybody's different.
Yeah.
I think, again, just my personal opinion, people kind of get caught up in that whole grinded out mentality. But we're seeing more and more that it doesn't lead to what you're looking for.
Hmm.
It leads to burnout. It leads to
Mm.
mental health issues. Um, for me, it's more being the time you spend, and you mentioned it earlier, is being 100% intentional with whatever you're doing. And whether that's in work, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's watching TV, it's doing that and not doing three things at once, eating while watching TV and scrolling through your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you start to develop the habit of doing one thing at a time, then you're able to be that much more focused.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we have so much going on. There's so many distractions. It's easy to get bored. It's easy to get bored just doing one thing, right? We need to be doing two or three things just to keep our systems up here. But we work much better when we're down here. Just understanding how can we kind of calm the nervous system from that point of view.
Brain isn't actually built to multitask, right?
No, it's not.
It doesn't exist. Like,
no.
Tell me.
But we feel so good. Jacob, I'm doing all these things.
Yeah.
I feel so busy.
Uh-huh. Because what really happens is that, let's say that you are, I don't know, writing email, then you're writing a blog, and maybe you're creating a story on Instagram. And it's not that you would be doing it all together. You're actually quickly changing focus from one thing to another and only working on that one specific thing at a time. And in the end, it actually takes way more time because the energy and effort spent on changing this focus so quickly is not really very effective.
So just to finish on that point, what happens when we change from one task to the other is there's actually like attention residue. It's like when you're thinking on something, you don't just all of a sudden switch over and your brain is like clear cache and now I'm good to go for the next one. So I think it's also important to take even a couple of minutes off between those tasks, between the Instagram story, between the email you're writing, between whatever you might be working on, just to kind of clear out your mind and then come back so you can be fully focused and you're not bringing all that attention residue from one task to the other. And the more you do that, the more that builds up, which then leaves, because attention is a limited space, leaves less and less attention for what you actually want to be focusing on.
And actually changing the tasks, the types of tasks, because something might be more analytical, something might be more creative.
Yeah.
And it's actually good to like build blocks for specific types of tasks, right? Because it's really difficult to change from creating a logo to doing your taxes. Right?
I think it's always difficult to do your taxes. But...
Well, yeah. I need to answer my taxes. Oh, all right. Thanks for reminding me. All right. Let's take a step back from the work and all this coaching stuff. What's going on in your life? What are the things you're passionate about right now, next to work?
So other than work?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So for me, I don't know, you're stumping me here. So for me, there's three things that I try to prioritize. And it's interesting because I see a lot of my own personal development to be just part of my work, right? So, when you're talking about getting up early and, taking time aside to focus, I believe much more in work-life harmony rather than work-life balance.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, well, why can't I go out at 3 p.m.? I mean, it depends for everybody. It's different for everybody. But why can't I go out for a run at 3 p.m. and work a little bit later in the day? Or, add in some things that kind of fill me more with energy. So I think one of the things I like to focus on is protecting my time and just being always aware of, well, how am I spending my time? Am I being intentional with it? And is where I'm spending my time helping me achieve, whether it be my business goals, even my own personal life goals, things along those lines. And then the same thing is around my energy and, understanding, well, how do you manage your energy levels? And, are you scatterbrained? Are you all over the place? Or, do you need to invest in yourself right now and just take some time off and, and take a step back from that point of view? I don't think I answered your question there.
I mean, it's totally fine because I would answer in this way very similarly because, I mean, what excites me are similar things like working on these things which makes my life better. So, for example, waking up early, I don't know, going to the gym and so on. So these are the things I'm working other than work, right? So
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily be, I don't know, play football, right? Or something.
Yeah, no, exactly.
All right, Scott, tell me about what not what, but where do you want to take your business? Like, what is not end goal, but
Mhm.
do you still want to be doing like one coaching, or do you want to build, I don't know, online course or like a real company with multiple employees? Where do you want to take it?
No, I think it's a really good question, Jacob. And for me, looking towards the future, I see first kind of developing myself, my coaching practice,
Mm-hmm.
my training skills,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, there's a lot of different opportunities, and deciding, well, what opportunity do you want to spend your time on? And that could be, creating a training business where we offer, workshops, and we partner with companies and help really develop training for their employees. Because I do believe, hard skills are changing so quickly, it's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to keep up with. But there are a lot of the soft skills, these self-management skills that we're talking about, that, they don't really change.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if we're going to, I feel like there's an importance in investing in those soft skills, and which is commonly overlooked, especially like throughout school. You don't really learn these things, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
either you learn them on your own, and some people do good, some people do bad, depends on the area you're looking at. So it really is looking at, well, how can you invest in yourself moving towards the future?
And it would be all in like a business environment, or are you more interested in like coaching, let's say, individuals?
So it's interesting, even though the people that I work with are mostly business oriented, there's always other things within their life that comes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's very hard to say, well, we're just going to talk about this.
Yes.
If there's something else going on in your life that is impacting your business, I mean, that's going to come up. There's no way of segregating that out.
Mm-hmm.
So again, coming back to kind of like the work-life harmony, where, well, how do you as a person show up,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be for your business or whether
Mm-hmm.
it be for your family or your personal life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not something like, hey, I will come for 2 days and teach you Microsoft Excel, right? It's not that like
Mm-hmm.
hard skill. It's, yeah, as you're saying, like a soft skill and more mindset thing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's not really possible to separate these like business
Yeah.
and personal life. All right, Scott, this is interesting. So tell me, where can people find a little bit more about you if they liked, if they like what you're saying, your calm personality. So where they can find you, where they can follow you, who should reach out to you? Tell me about that.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of social media, I might have Instagram and Facebook accounts. However, I'm not very active there. So I think the best place is definitely LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out, connect. Let me know where maybe you found this podcast. You can also visit my website, which is just scottrust.com. Otherwise, who I'm working with is, I'm working mostly with entrepreneurs. They have a service that they're offering. They're looking to grow their business. And, I don't come in as a business coach. I don't come in to tell them how they should be running their business.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, what I do is I help them optimize the way they work by
Okay.
putting in fewer hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anybody along those lines that would be interested, I'm glad to chat and just hearing what they're going through.
Perfect. So guys, it's scotttrust.com, or you can find Scott Trust on LinkedIn. He's a profile picture with bricks behind him. I hope that you will keep it there for a while, and that you
Yeah.
won't change it today. Anyway, Scott, so thanks again for coming to this show. And guys, if we brought you some value, please just share it with your friends who might be interested in personal development. Just take a screenshot of the app you're listening this podcast on, share it in your stories, take the link from the YouTube, send it to a couple of friends. It would mean a world to me. Here are no ads. Probably no ads will be here in the future. So this is the only way how you can support this podcast. So thanks a lot, Scott, for coming.
All right. Thank you, Jacob.